So this says it's a 2007 Toyota 3.3 liter variable valve timing belt and a water pump, 3MZ-FE engine. Took off the radiator cap. Gonna go down here. There's a drain for the radiator right down there. If we can reach down here, we're gonna, if we can get to it. Got a bucket down there underneath. Open that up. Yeah, there we go. We got Toyota pink flowing out now. Start the draining process while we start taking things apart here. I'm gonna use a lot of 14 and 12 and 10 probably. So we're gonna take all this stuff off here. Don't believe the engine's gonna fall very far at all. So we'll get started with that. 14 millimeter 3/8 ratchet, although I'll be using air tools. Just comes off. It's got a little pin, guide pin down below. Probably can go ahead. There's a little bracket right in front of us here. It's got a 12 millimeter nut and a 14 millimeter bolt. Take that off as well. Take the 14 millimeter. Just loosen the 14 millimeter because that's for the alternator right here in front of us. Then down there is a 12 millimeter bolt and a 12 millimeter adjusting screw. So we're just going to go ahead and loosen the two items on the side here, then we can turn this adjusting screw left and we'll loosen up the belt for the alternator. You get this loose enough and this bracket will slide off. I think it's got a hinge or a slide. I've got a long extension and a swivel. Just turn this and loosen up the belt. It's not quite off yet, but you can see how loose the belt is. Then we have a power steering belt in the back, and I think we'll have to get to that from below. If you want to, you can start taking this cover off if you want to. It's 10mm bolts, front and back. Front and back, I mean this way. And then here, got these little tabs. Pull this tab back. Right there, there's a little tab. You pull this back and slide this off. Like this is here. So a few of those along the way, so you can undo those up here. So we do have our harness mostly loose. Got a couple ground wires here we can disconnect. It's mostly I think lifting up on these tangs, and they're you can see they're opposite, although they're ground wires, so it won't matter which way you hook it up. So get those out of the way a little bit. Alright, like I said, you can either take that cover off or go down below and finish taking the belts off. And the crankshaft pulley. Here we got the tire, 21mm lug nuts. You want to break those loose while the car's sitting on the ground. Then go ahead and jack it up, and then you can take the wheels off the rest of the way, and always use safety jacks. 2 jacks, large lumps of wood, or something to protect yourself. Put it under the car so it doesn't fall on you when you're underneath it. I'm going to take off the shield here. 10mm bolts here and here. This my gun's a little weak, so I think that's about it. So take that shield off, and we can get to the crankshaft pulley and belt items a little easier. There's also a push pin tucked in the left-hand corner. Looks kind of like this. The button in the middle is flush. It's back here. All you need to do is reach in there with a small screwdriver or something and push that center piece in, and that will release it. Usually you're used to pulling things out, but we need to push that pin, center pin in. We'll release it. And you can pull this out, off and out. So we got 2 10mm bolts and our push pin. Then we have access to this here, and you may need a puller of some kind to get the crankshaft pulley off, so you want to be ready for that. Hopefully you're watching this video before you tackle something, so you know what is involved and decide if you want to do it. See 2 holes here, specifically made for a puller, and we'll see what happens. Sometimes they slide off. Now again, I am using impact tools because I do this for a living, so I have a 22mm socket. Fits on here, but they do make tools for holding pulleys and so that is off. Now we actually want to do some with the power steering back here, and I got 2 12mm bolts. This is the swing bolt right here, but we can maybe loosen both of these. This might have to come off to get the timing cover off anyway, so let's take these 2 bolts out. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. So get the bracket moved. Often when you have this bolt taken out where it swings, the other pivot bolt, you might be able to pull the belt down and just loosen it. And you can see that's what I've done. So I was able to pull down on the belt and move the power steering closer so the belt's loose. So both these belts are loose. I might just choose to try and slide this off, and with the belts just loose like that. Not really coming off, so I think that we will be using a puller. You can try and get a pry bar back there, but it's kind of a crowded fit, so need to use a tool and pull that off. Got our puller set up, we got our 2 bolts in there, and we got a pushing device on the other side of this large screw. Got our socket on there. See if we can pull this off. Came off pretty easy. Maybe with a little penetrant and a little effort, it could have slid off with our hands. Slid off, excuse me. So that's basically off. Got our belts in the way. All right, power steering belt off. AC and alternator belt off or out of the way. And we can get to all the rest of the timing cover bolts. Again, just 10mm and lefty loosey, righty tighty. Might be a little dark up there, but you can also get to 2 bolts here. We'll bolt in a nut, 12mm and 12mm for this bracket. We'll need to get that out because the timing belt goes underneath it. So get these covers off. Now there's a little bit of wrestling to get this power steering hose moved around so we can get this out. Here's the cover though. See how that interlocks with the lower cover, I believe, right there. Just these 10mm bolts holding that in place. Go over here, lay it down, and I believe it interlocks something like that. Then we get the mount out of the middle. Probably, yeah. I believe it's 2 12mm bolts and 1 12mm nut. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. I'm using an air ratchet. You can certainly use a 3/8 ratchet and proper sockets. And maybe even open end wrenches will work. So I've got a jack here lifting up on the engine because this engine mount is a very tight fit. You can see right here, I've actually got it off this side here. Oh, there we go. It just came off. But I had to jack it up a little bit to give me clearance. Because if you look down on the engine compartment side, there's a lip right here I believe I'm needing to clear. So jack up the engine a little bit so now I can clear it and get this out. Up the top. Probably up there somewhere. It's good enough. So got that out of the way. Then we'll start to line up our timing marks. Can I see a little dimple in there? Maybe. I'm going to highlight this stuff with some white out, make it clear. So I think at this time it's important to be paying attention to your timing marks and other marks because there is a dimple on this gear here. There's also a triangle here and a dot there. So we have basically 3 marks. My timing belt is attached. Got my 22mm and a breaker bar. So I'm turning the engine over. So I am going to guess that it's going to be the triangle, which I need to go a little farther then. And I'll find out if I'm wrong. Up top. So that triangle's lined up with a little dimple. Show you better in a while. So it does look like I'm 180 off. You can see that I've got a dot and a gouge. They're down below, so I do need to turn the crankshaft another 360 degrees. I need to turn it 1 revolution to get my marks to line up. And here's the mark right here in this area. It's a dimple in the back cover. It'll be the same for the one in the back, definitely tougher to see. So right up there is a 14 millimeter bolt for the power steering, and we do need to loosen that so we can get the power steering pump out of the way. Because the power steering pump is in the way of this bolt here. Unless we can get the power steering pump, well, it's gonna hit this is the problem. So unless you want to try and work around it, we got to get these two 12 millimeter bolts out to get this out. So we can, we got to collapse it, put a pin in there and collapse this, replace it with a new one. So let's at least loosen up that power steering bolt. 14 millimeter, I believe, is what it is. Just wanted to show you we do have a 12 millimeter socket and my 3/8 ratchet on there. And it did break loose. So I'm just trying to take it out or get it loose here. Whatever works. So it's loose. It might even just fall out here a little bit. Do not have a very good look at it. But it looks like it might just, I was going to say it's going to slide out. Not sure if it will though, until I get the bolt all farther out. You can see it on the camera there, so we'll just take it the rest of the way out and drop this power steering out of the way. So we'll see how this camera shot compares. This is my Android Razr Max HD camera on my phone. So got the bolt out up there, just sitting in place because it does have a groove. You can see it sits out of the way. Now we got our two 12 millimeter bolts right here, and there's gonna be a little tension because that's hydraulically loaded. So, but we'll just pull these bolts out, and it'll pop off, and we can pull it out. Our belt will be loose. A little view of what is ahead. The dot is for a mark on the belt. There's going to be a mark on the belt, and up here, can't see real well, but that triangle is not, the triangle is not top dead center mark. It is the circle. So we'll get that cleaned up. I'm going to get this stuff out of here and let my other camera charge up some more. And then we'll get the rest of this going. Pull the belt off, and we'll get those marks lined up and highlighted so you can see them real well. Alright, so actually here's the fork in the road for this video. Often at this point I'll probably tell people to use a vice grip or something. I call them reverse torques because I actually have a fitting on the end here you can use. Take these two studs out, and then the 10 millimeter bolts for the water pump. Also this 14 millimeter bolt in here for this idler pulley. And we have a 10 millimeter bolt here and over there. There's actually a couple back here. You can probably get to them through the pulley, but you don't want to turn these pulleys very far because you don't want to end up damaging valves. I mean, if you're careful, you can roll it over till it stops. It'll probably be fine, but just better to be safe and leave things alone when the belt's off, if you can. So, but if you want to just go this route, because we're going to be moving into some more special tools, maybe all people can use screwdrivers, I guess. Wedge a screwdriver against the 10 millimeter bolt, and then we can break this bolt loose because we want to take these pulleys off, because I am doing the cam and crank seals as well. So you kind of imagine there's a little more of a pain in the butt down on the back side. So if you're just going to try and get to the water pump, I do recommend you do it. Take these two studs out, get those out, get the stuff all free if you can, and you should be able to weasel it out of there. However, let's proceed with the video, and I am going to do this video more complete, and I will be taking off these pulleys and replacing the seals. But we're going to skip a little bit because I'll be taking off this piece and a couple of the 10 millimeter bolts, and we'll jump back in here and we'll take off the cam pulleys. Alright, I got the special tool for holding the cam pulley in place and a 17 millimeter socket on a ratchet. Whew, that is a real struggle. I am going to get a bigger breaker bar. Ratchet, going a 1/2 inch. Actually have the handle of the tool wedged against the other pulley. Got it loose though. Try and do the same for the other side and wedge it up against something so I can use all my leverage to break it loose. So that's what you got to go through to get these off. Hey, maybe you're a big guy. Me, not so much. All right, got the pulleys off, and now we get the rest of the 10mm bolts off. There's 2 here and 2 in the back. Pull this off. You got it tied in. One spot is tied in here. We'll get that loose. So here's the back, and there's a dimple in there. I just put some white out in it to highlight it. And then the front has got this little notch, and also put some white out in it to highlight it. So there's our cover off, and we have easier access to our water pump now. Looks like maybe about 4 or 5 10mm water pump bolts. Put a drain pan underneath the vehicle to catch the fluid. I already drained the radiator, of course, like we showed, but now more will come out with the water pump coming off. So let's see about getting the water pump off. All right, it says to remove the water pump bolts, so let's go ahead and do that. I think there's 4 nuts, 2 nuts and 4 bolts. So right back there, we got our, looks like, to me it looks like 3 nuts. So we'll get those off and we'll see if it just comes off like they claim. Got our bucket for kitchen coolant. We'll just apply a little pressure in here. There we go. And most of it's going in the bucket, but not all of it. Well, that's not the huge deal. We'll see if this pump actually comes off with those studs there, because it doesn't mention anything about them. I'll slide it off. Oh, look at that. They were right. I take back everything. There's the water pump off. The gasket's still on the engine. I think these are the best gaskets, metal and rubber. And that's what I got in my timing belt kit. I have a complete kit with water pump, gasket, timing belt, idler pulley, tensioner pulley, hydraulic tensioner assembly. Put all nice new stuff on here. So there we go. That is it. We'll still try and go ahead and use a rag and make sure there's nothing wrong with the surface where the water pump mounts onto. We can wipe it down with a rag and install our nice new gasket over these studs, which are not an issue. It's kind of where I'd say reverse procedure to install. We'll be showing you the timing mark, lining up timing marks and procedure to put it back on. It's pretty nice though. If you have a belt handy, it does usually have marks on it. So you can line up the marks on the belt, on the engine, on the pulleys. Alright, I used my handy seal installer and removal kit. Just gonna wedge this little baby in between the cam and the seal, and then the tools pull it out. Removal tool. I lost one of these actually, so I usually stack some nuts on here, but I got these cam seals pulled out. Now I can find an install tool and match these up. This is probably going to be the best one, so we'll be pushing new cam seals in place. This selection here. We'll see that in a second. Got some grease on the seal to start it. We got this all cleaned up. Just going to start this on here. Line it up. Get our selection of tools. Just start a little bit ourselves there. Got to get the right stack of tools. Of course, this is the time where the camshaft bolt doesn't quite do the job. I'll have to try and find a longer one to press that in. I have found a bolt. Just put it in until it seems to touch bottom. This does seem to have a bottom. So that is how we install camshaft and crankshaft seals on this particular vehicle and many vehicles just like it. So yeah, let's put it back together. Reverse procedure to install, and you will probably get a few torque specs from me putting it back together. 71 inch-pounds for the water pump bolts. Got the new one on and torqued down. So we'll install the other seals and put it back together. So here's the seal removal tool in action. Just let it show you. See if it actually works. Oh, there we go. Sometimes the seals are stiff and the pieces pull out, but after a couple, 3 tries, it usually comes out. Very nice, very handy. All right, there's the dimple on the crankshaft area for lining up your timing marks. See, the keyway is off to the side. Here is our crankshaft pulley for the timing belt. Let's see, I've put some white out on the dot. And if you can see the arrow just to the left, about 3 teeth, that is not your mark. And then we have a dot right here, and this is probably going to be a mark for a line on the timing belt. So we put this on now. Boom. Check our marks. And they look pretty good. So I removed the tensioner because I'm going to be replacing it. It's a 10mm Allen. And if you do remove this, please be aware there's a washer on the back so it can pivot. So you don't want to lose or not realize this washer's not here. Because it is there and you need it. So we're going to replace this. We have seen one, I've seen one actually, where the hydraulic tensioner is worn into this pin. So do take a look at it and make sure it isn't somehow worn and damaged, because it can mess up the tension on the timing belt, and you don't want that. Alright, trying the night vision on this camera, putting some white out on this bolt because it does seem to go right in this hole, which seems to go right inside where the oil is. So I'm going to put some thread locker or some Loctite. So I'm going to put some thread sealant on this bolt. So we've got it back together with our marks pretty doggone close. So we are going to put the belt on. As I mentioned, some dotted marks here. That is for the crankshaft pulley. And then we have a couple lines for the camshafts. Though I'm not sure exactly which way the belt's supposed to go on, if you're supposed to read it with the words or like this. So we'll try it 2 ways, and one of the ways is going to be right. We'll start on the bottom with the dotted lines on the crankshaft. So we've got the dotted line with the dot right here. Took a little rag and stuck it in here so we can make sure it doesn't move, and then we'll go up top around the water pump and then up to the camshaft. Let's go up there. And we can see doing it this way is not even close, so we're going to turn the belt around and try it again. So here we're only a tooth off, so I think if we take up the slack, we take up some slack and we rotate the camshaft a little bit, then we'll make it tight, and then we can make it work. Alright, now our line is pretty lined up with our timing marks, and there's just a little bit of slack there, not too much. So we can work our way back to the back side. Do the same thing, hopefully. We'll need to rotate maybe just a little bit to the right as well. Alright, now we can rotate it back. Ooh. And perhaps I hadn't realized I should not have mounted the tensioner, hydraulic tensioner assembly yet. So, mistake on my part, but you can probably take that off and then put the belt over the pulley down here and then remount that. And then you want to check your marks, make sure the yellow lines are lining up with your marks if you're happy with them. Then we can probably go ahead and turn the engine over a couple times and re-line up our timing marks. Now the marks on the belt will not line up anymore, but you can check your marks. So make sure everything else is really close right now before you turn it over 2 times by hand. So note to everybody, don't install this all the way. As you can see, I had to take it most of the way out. Got the belt on. And then we'll lift this up, of course, and put this back in place and reinstall it. And we'll double check our marks. I'm pretty happy with them. We'll turn the engine over twice, double check our marks. If they're good, then finish putting it back together. If not, I'm sorry, but you should re-collapse your hydraulic tensioner after you take it back off and re-line up your marks. And yes, everything's bolted back together. Now we need to pull the pin. Pin is pulled, and now we can turn the engine over. As I mentioned before a couple times, turn the crankshaft over once, twice, and re-line up your marks before you put it back together. Here I am coming around on the second turn. That is pretty dang close. So go up top and check our marks. So here's the camshaft, right side, looking pretty good. And really hard to tell on the back side. I know it's in shadow. This is where a mirror will come in handy. But just eyeing it right here tells me it's probably in good shape. So another option is to make a second mark on this black backing along with one of these teeth. That also is a helpful hint sometimes as well. I'm going to call this good to go and reverse procedure to install. 92 foot-pounds on these babies, that's why it was hard to break loose. Yeah. Alright, so we've added about 2.5 gallons. I did do the radiator hoses as well. Lower radiator hose down there, so maybe a little more coolant came out, but 2.5 gallons of our Toyota pink coolant. So there it is, full. Don't seem to have any problems with air pockets that I know of here. And if you're getting 2.5 gallons in, that's pretty dang good. So filled that up. There's our overflow filled up too, cleaned and filled up, just past the full mark. And we'll get ready to start it up. So you want to get in here and start it up. Then we'll set the temperature on here to hot. Find the temperature, put it up to 85 apparently there. No AC. Only a max of 85 on this, interesting. So, and we'll blow it at our faces here. There we go. Turn that down a little bit. And we'll run it, and in about 5, 6, 7 minutes, should start to feel some warmth out of the vents. Excuse me. And we'll watch the temperature gauge, of course, as well. So that's what I recommend you do as well. Just run it 5, 6, 7 minutes. You start feeling a little warmth. If you don't ahead and shut it off and check the radiator. Maybe you need to add some more. Maybe you did have a air pocket, but like I said, with 2.5 gallons, that's pretty dang full. And this little connector that was on the fender well area, you actually need to spread these 2 fingers out wider, and then you can push it in. Can you get that on camera? Once this is pushed through, you need to actually spread these fingers farther and push it, and it'll be ready to install again like that. So a couple things: crankshaft pulley bolt or vibration dampener bolt is 162 foot-pounds, 162 I believe it was, and lug nuts are merely 76 to 80 foot-pounds. A couple specs you might find helpful. Going for my test drive, recommend driving it 6, 7, 8 miles, let it get up to operating temperature, then we'll let it cool off, and double check your coolant levels after it's cooled off.